Hmm.
Committee of the whole meeting of the Administrative and Legislative Committee to order at 6:02 p.m. We will start with call. Carl Johnson here. Sherry Gieske.
Here.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson. Ray Larson.
Here.
Steve Schabacher. Here. Jeff Carlisle.
Here.
Ryan Curry.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Sherry Bartel.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Next, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the December 7th and 9th Committee of the Whole meetings.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Robertson, seconded by Mr. Curry. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Gieske.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Next, I would accept the motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Motion by Mr. Carlisle,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Schabacher. Any discussion?
I believe we do need to switch around to agenda items under new business.
Under new business, what do we need to switch?
Yes, so we need to actually strike 9.7, I'm sorry, not 9.7. We want to move 9.7 up to after 9.3 to make it the new 9.4.
So move 9.7 up and make it 9.3.5,
Sure.
and that would be cloud permit.
Yes, and then we need to strike 9.5.
You can strike a lot more things if you'd like. And eliminate 9.5.
Yes.
So I would accept a motion to amend the agenda by moving 9.7 and making it 9.3.5
I'll make the motion.
and moving and striking 9.5. So motion by Mr. Schubacher, seconded by Mr. Carlisle. Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, roll call. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schubacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Martell.
Yes.
Rodney Ryder.
Yes.
The amendment carries, then we'll have to approve the agenda as amended. Any discussion on that? Roll call. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schubacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Martell.
Yes.
Rodney Ryder.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, is there anyone in the audience with public comment? Come on up. Did you fill out a form? Awesome, let me have that. Then I would ask that you state your name and address for the record. Okay, perfect. So let's start with Neely Erickson. Just want to have to run back and forth.
No problem. My name is Neely Erickson and I am the Government Affairs Director for the Illinois Realtors. I'm here representing the Belvedere Board of Realtors and the Rockford Area Realtors regarding the impact fee matter. I don't want to restate what
Did you forget your address?
well, my home address is 497 Prairie Knoll Drive in Poplar Grove, Illinois. My office address is 215 North Main Street in Belvedere.
Okay, perfect. Just for the record, so we have it.
No, all good. So I don't want to restate anything that we've provided in previous public comment, but I did want to direct your attention that we have been part of a working group, coalition with both of the school districts, along with the park and the conservation district. There was a letter of support itemizing our discussion that was provided in your packets. So I am here today to answer any questions that you may have now or later on during the meeting regarding that letter. But overall, we are asking Boone County, this board, to consider a 2-year moratorium on the impact fees and to review your ordinance during that 2 years, but not only the county to review that ordinance, both the park district, conservation, and the school districts are going to review theirs to see if they are considered to continue to be applicable at this point in time. Everybody in the group has pretty much come to a consensus to the 2-year moratorium. The fee at this point in time seems very arbitrary, so that's the reason why we're asking for the moratorium. The school district will not receive an overwhelming impact as they have moved forward. Park and conservation are in agreement with the same. But there are key items that we did discuss, so everybody's concerns are represented in that letter for you to review.
All right, thank you very much. Connor Brown. Once again, if you could state your name and address for the record for us, please.
Absolutely.
And if you need to hold that microphone up, that's fine too.
Okay. A little taller than Neely. Sorry, Neely. All right. Good evening, everyone. Neely asked that I just provide a little bit of an update. For all of you, I am the CEO of Rockford Area Realtors. We just went through a merger, as you may be aware of, with the Belvedere Board of Realtors. President Christy Steins is here today, so we're merging together as one new organization. So we're really excited about that going into 2021. Our headquarters is located at 6776 East State Street. We're going to continue to have a presence here in Belvedere and having a chapter office so that we can serve our Boone County realtors. Just want to give you a real quick snapshot. I know I was before the county board here a couple months ago, but just as we kind of turn this page into 2021, what we're seeing in the market, we are seeing continued depression in terms of new listings and overall inventory. That number is further tumbled. Typically, this is a challenging time for us with the winter months. Not a lot of people like to list their homes, but you compound that with COVID and just an overall concern of where people are going to move to next. It certainly accelerates that. On the bright spot, homes were moving rather briskly. We looked at 2019 numbers here in Boone County as well as 2020 numbers. We saw an almost 25% increase in the number of homes sold. That's very important for your local economy here, and every time you see that transaction take place, that's meaning, new carpeting, new paint, improvements that are made onto the property. And certainly that has helped. We did see a year over year, just over $7,500 price increase. The average sale price of the 642 homes that sold last year was $217,000. And when we compare that to the list price of $221,000, it's very, very close to list. Now, the numbers that we're looking at right now today, so if you were to call a realtor today and ask him or her, show me what's on the market here in Boone County, we're looking at 63 homes that are active and available on the market. And that's everything from $1.2 million all the way down to just shy of $85,000. So not a lot on the market. So if you're a middle-class home buyer, you want to look for something below $250,000, that shrinks even further. That's 33 homes on the market. And so the competition is rather fierce right now. We have been noticing more people that have been frustrated with the lack of inventory, starting to talk about new building or building new construction. And so to Neely's point, I think the time is certainly great right now for the board to look at this, and with a concerted effort with the Park District, Conservation District, and both school boards all in alignment with industry groups, I think is really, really commendable that we're all speaking with one voice. So certainly welcome the discussion that will go forward this evening. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in the boardroom with public comment? Did we receive any other public comment?
No.
Okay. Just to point out to the board, all of you should have received an email from Ken Ramsey. I believe that's his name. Yes, Ken Ramsey, regarding the lot of record discussion that we'll have later. There was some thought by staff that maybe that's a public comment, but I think since it pertains strictly to that agenda and everybody received that email, I don't know if that's necessarily a public comment, but it is in the record, so make sure you please take a look at that at some point. All right. Mr. Curry, the meeting is yours, sir.
Thank you. Moving right along, monthly presentation, 6-1 public safety, Sheriff.
Good evening, everybody. We'll keep it somewhat brief. There's only a couple things I want to talk about tonight. The first one is we got our final numbers in for just a review of our 2020 budget. As just to remind some of the new members, the Sheriff's Office is actually responsible for 6 different budgets. It's the Sheriff's budget, it's the Corrections budget, the Public Safety Building budget, Emergency Management, Local Emergency Planning Committee, and the county buildings. So that's what falls underneath the Sheriff's Office. That's roughly just over $9 million budget. Happy to inform everybody that we came under budget in every single budget. Back in June of 2020, county administration, I think just before Kevin got here, we were asked to try to make as many cuts. Obviously, due to COVID, we didn't know where the revenue or expenses were going to be based on that. So all department heads were asked that. We committed to at least try to come close. We made major cuts for not hiring open spots, and other cuts, overtime, anything that we could do, because the uncertainty was pretty grim back in June before we got the newer numbers in. So we had committed to roughly $341,000 to be cut from all these budgets. And I would tell you that money is not fluff money. That is money that should be spent on manpower. As I've talked about for the last 6 years that I've been here, we are grossly understaffed. But obviously we can only spend what money the county has. So that's why those cuts were made. Also, including the addition, our county IT, the sheriff's office took over the city IT services at a cost of $47,000, just over. So I'm happy to say with that income from the county IT, we were able to save the county this year almost $400,000. So that is a tremendous amount of money that we needed to spend, but under the circumstances, this is a commitment that we made. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Also, I would request that you remember the cuts that we made, that you continue to support the sheriff's office. Upcoming months, we may be presenting car purchases, things that we are in desperate need, which I talked about last month. So I just wanted to point out the obvious. So if we come up with those funds, that is something that we really want to pursue. So we'll be talking about that in the next few months. The other topic I wanted to talk about is just to give the board an update on the loss of our Canine Loki. Back in December, I'm sure most of you are aware of it, but just in case you're not, back on December 27th, 2020, approximately 1:30 in the morning, we had Deputy Rosenkrantz make a traffic stop. It was a he was doing a narcotic enforcement detail, stopped the car, and unfortunately a drunk driver driving a limousine struck the rear of Deputy Rosenkrantz's vehicle. Unfortunately, our canine unit was in the vehicle. I'm sure most of you have seen pictures of that vehicle. It was actually amazing that it survived as long as it did. Deputies rushed Loki to Rockford, the emergency vet care clinic. Were awesome. We initially thought that Loki had a broken leg, but once we got her to the vet, she had multiple internal injuries and they just couldn't save her. So the department is dealing with that. Deputy Rosenkrantz is doing a good job dealing with it. Obviously, for people, in the police field, the canine is a partner that spends 24/7 with that officer. They tremendous amount of training, a tremendous amount of cost, a tremendous amount of, it's part of the family. So there are some things that we're going to be doing in the future. We will have a processional and a short ceremony in the coming weeks, so I'll keep everybody updated on that. I did want to talk briefly about the outpouring of support for not only the department, but also for Deputy Rosenkrantz. Once we released that information on our Facebook page, just to kind of put it in perspective, we had over 4.5 million tags on that site. Not necessarily people love the police, but they love police dogs. So it was a tremendous outpouring of support. I would tell you, with that many people, we had calls, letters. We were contacted from all over the world because this news went viral. And it's the love of animals. We have counseled people on the phone who have called crying. I don't want to say it's bizarre. It's been interesting. So it is something that we've been dealing with. Me personally, I've never believed in soliciting funds. I just never felt right about that when my time with the city and my time with the county. So we did not solicit funds. However, we had such an outpouring of people of support that really was demanding to donate money that a lot of organizations and individuals throughout the country started raising money. And we could not verify the legitimacy of some of these, which we're very gracious. It's very nice that they're doing that if it's legit. But since we couldn't verify the legitimacy of it, we did post our address on there, and we explained on our page that we are not soliciting funds, but due to people's demands, we provided our address, and obviously we're not going to turn money away because obviously we need it. But it is something that the outpouring has been just incredible. We, just to keep the board informed, we set up an account for the treasurer. You know, I've said 100% of that money donated will go to that Canine program. I don't want to commingle funds, so we open up an account so we can track that. So every dime that's donated will actually go into this Canine program. In the first week, just cash delivered to our department was over $10,000. We anticipate it will be much more than that, you know, as it continues. Equipment, we had the owner of the Cincinnati Reds buy our next cage. I mean, it's been really remarkable, the outpouring of support. And it was a very critical, serious accident. I will tell you, I am so thankful that the Lord was looking out for our deputy, because to this day, I don't understand how he wasn't struck. As he was talking to the driver of the car, he stopped on the passenger side. The limousine actually drove down, not the lane, but the shoulder, and actually hit the inside of his vehicle. Therefore, the car, his squad, ended up hitting the car that he had stopped. And the limousine actually went around our deputy. So as he turned, he just got a face full of glass. But I don't know, it's a miracle that he wasn't struck by that drunk driver. So there's multiple reasons why we posted it. You know, people need to understand Scott's law. There's just so many variables here. There's absolutely no excuse. There was nobody out on that roadway except this drunk driver. So we are going to hold him accountable as much as we can. I would recommend, and I, you know, I do not believe in lawsuits at all, personally, but this company or this driver has to be responsible to pay for the damages that has happened. It should not be the responsibility of the taxpayers to pay for this guy's sins. Having a canine unit is extremely expensive. We probably invest, when it's all said and done, $50,000 or $60,000. You know, that's with training. You know, it'd be much more than that when you had the vehicle in and the canine. So I'm not sure how much insurance is going to cover, but obviously the donations are going to help. We are going to purchase another canine when we find one. The unfortunate reality, this canine was awesome. It was one of the best dogs we've ever had. We had this dog for just over a year, and it had made multiple drug arrests, tracking successes. This dog has gone all over the region, which we believe in. When we're called, we will go wherever we're needed. So I just wanted to pass that on to the board. I will keep everybody updated on when we're going to have that. A tentative date is January 16th. It's a Saturday. It is customary that a canine is treated just like an officer. So we will give its respect the respect that it's due. Our thought is, our plans right now, not that we've asked for permission, I'm the sheriff, maybe we don't have to do that, but we were planning on putting a stone up at the courthouse where we have officers' stones for most of you that have been up there. I believe this is very fitting for a line of duty death for this canine. So I believe that's what we're going to do. So we will keep everybody updated with that. And again, donations, it will not be tax money that will be spent for any of that. So I figured I'd just pass that on. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask. Whether it's in reference to the budget or the canine or anything else.
Steve?
Yeah, I know we're gonna talk about this later, but earlier tonight they brought up about impact fees. Does that affect your department?
I'm not sure if we ever see any of those funds. I believe it's always supposed to, but I that's somebody else's, you have to ask the somebody else on
I
that.
just didn't know if you had any knowledge or not, if, again, those impact fees had any effect on your department.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works in the county. I know with the city, it was part of those funds were supposed to go to police and fire.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Rod?
Just a quick comment. I've spent 30 years in law enforcement myself, and the last 5 years with a canine. I'll tell you, there's no stronger bond than the officer with his dog. So, I know you're gonna do everything that you can to get him another partner as soon as possible, and keep that money coming in, because that's just awesome. There's no doubt about it.
It is pretty special, for sure.
He's one of the men.
Yes, Dave, what time is that service for the dog?
It's work in progress. We will keep everybody updated. It's really a temporary. Some of it's going to be determined on the weather. But we anticipate right now it would be 10 a.m., but that may change. But we will notify everybody. We will also post it. The media has been asking about it. It'll be in the media, and it'll also be on our department Facebook page.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Sheriff? I think I speak on behalf of us all in offering our condolences and apologize for the department's loss.
Very good. Thank you.
Next up on presentations is 6-TAC 2 Highway, Boone County Highway Engineer. Justin, are you online?
Yes, I am. On board docs, I have the update. I'll just start from the beginning, go through it really briefly. If you got any questions, I'll be happy to take those. Grants, I'm working on establishing a relationship between R1PC and the Highway Department for future grant applications, and hopefully they can provide additional resources to increase the quality of grant submittals that we put in for projects. The last round of applications, there's different cycles of applications that go through throughout the year. The last round was the TARP program, the Truck Access Route Program. That is a grant that we received and spent the money for this past year on Manchester Road. I did apply for 3 different projects. I only copied the board on, or the committee on, one of the applications. It's Irene Road application. That, in my opinion, is the best application. That's far better than even our awarding application that we submitted for Manchester Road. I really hope that one does get selected. That would be to improve Irene Road down to Pelote Quarry all the way up past 90 to 20. And one nice aspect about that is that we do have a financial commitment from Pelote and William Charles Construction, both the quarry operators, to participate in that project. So the hope is that there'd be very little public, if we get selected for the grant, there'd be very little local levy funds that would be needed on that project. And that grant is on board docs as well, if you'd like to look at it. The other 2 projects, a Boone County project and a Belvedere projects, were submitted as well. Future projects, tomorrow morning I got a truck replacement bid opening. Everything's looking really good on that. We've got a lot of bids already coming in, and we expect a few more tomorrow. So I will be bringing that to the Finance Committee next week. Then I've got the asphalt projects for the summer of 2021. So this summer's projects, these are all hot mix asphalt, blacktop projects throughout the county. I bundle all these together to get a little bit better prices with all the townships, county, Capron, Timberlane. There's quite a few different agencies participate in this, and it's been successful in the last few years. So if those, and I've got a map attached as well on that document. So the second page of the document has a map, and I've kind of redlined all the roads. There is actually, looks like Russellville, we're going to try to do the full stretch of Russellville. It's always nice to avoid those joints and have one complete road on the same cycle through multiple agencies. So we've got Bonus, Boone County, Poplar Grove, and Boone Township all participating in that one segment of road. So that's really nice to see. Structure replacements, we've got 3 different structure replacements going on. I've got listed Denny Road Bridge. That bridge is a single span bridge that's been posted recently. We plan on replacing it with box culverts. I plan on using federal funds for that. I'm really pushing to get that one through this year. We'll see how that goes. Federal funds typically is a little bit more difficult to do, but we've been working on it for a while now, so it's possible. Poplar Grove Road Bridge. I'll go to Wheeler, the last one there. That one is just a box culvert extension. It's not a real big deal, but it is considered a bridge because it has a span of greater than 20 feet. And that one we hope to do as well this summer. And that's a Florida Township structure. And actually, there's 2 of them there. But Poplar Grove Road Bridge, that would be over Beaver Creek. That's just north of Beaver Road. That's the county bridge. It was posted to 30 ton this year. Obviously it's a significant structure for the county, well traveled between Poplar Grove and Belvedere. So, that is a priority of ours to try to get that replaced and remove that posting. Right now I'm planning on getting that replaced this summer. It's scheduled to, right now it's scheduled to start in the month of May, hopefully, and be completed by November. That would be a detour, so it would be a full closure with a detour using Orth and 76 and Whiting. That bridge has not cleared the environmental yet. That Beaver Creek has the potential of getting an environmental hit, whether it's a snail or a, toaded frog or who knows, there's all sorts of different flags that could pop up that could cause a delay in that. So far, we've passed a lot of hurdles. We have not passed the environmental one yet. So that if that does occur, then that would push that till next year, most likely. That bridge is going to be about a $1.5 to $1.7 million bridge. We've got an existing DECO grant for that, a $250,000 grant. The rest of the money would probably come from our RBI funds, the Rebuild Illinois program funds. And then, I guess that's about it. I open to any questions.
Thank you, Justin. Does anybody have questions for Justin? I don't see any questions, Justin. Thank you. And I see that our lights are working again out on 20. So you lied to us and said it had been a month. It was only 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, that was IDOT. None of my doing, unfortunately. So that IDOT did pull through on that. I think they heard a lot of complaints and got a lot of calls on that one. So.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
All right. Moving on to 7, quarterly department presentations, starting with the administration. Kevin?
Yes, I can speak to administration. I'll be very brief. Tonight I wanted to highlight just a few things in my written report. The COVID-19 response, administration office, particularly Dan Street, has entered actually our full allocation. We're waiting to hear back on the last submittal, but to date we have $787,670.11 received. To date, so we're waiting on this last submittal that we request reimbursement for. So we have that. I wanted to highlight some website redesign. Since the new county's website is up, our office manager has been adding the photos that were taken by our county treasurer. So those will be up on our website hopefully pretty soon. And we're also gaining more followers too on Facebook. And now that our actual county board meetings are live streamed to YouTube, we'll see some additional social media likes there as well. So we do that. And then the last thing I want to highlight in here, unless we have other questions, scheduling some budget workshops. I'm working on a pretty lengthy document to educate board members and the public on the county's budget. So I call it sort of like a budget 101 document. So it'll be an actual document. And then what we plan on doing probably beginning in February, in time to prepare the board and department heads for our budget development in the future for the 21-22 budget. We'll have departments at each finance meeting, probably 3 to 4 each finance meeting, kind of present the makeup of their budget, the revenues, the expenditures, things like that, and then entertain questions for the board members and the public, just to garner some more understanding of how departments run, why they run the way they do, revenue streams, things like that. So working on that, and hopefully we can begin that in February. So I'll be detailing that in our next department head meeting. And that's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody have any questions for Kevin? Anybody on the phones have questions for Kevin?
Ryan,
Is that you,
Ryan,
Sherry?
this is Sherry Gieske. I have a quick one. For Kevin. Kevin, you're focusing on the departments, but will we do a little bit of backfill in starting out from where money spend it? But will we be able to include a small portion of where that money comes from? In other words, you know, the assessment cycle, the tax cycle, and the sheer fact that the money actually comes from the citizens.
Yes.
Am I making sense, Kevin?
Yep. And the actual beginning of that will include just that. We will, as part of the secondary, I guess, purpose of the Budget 101 will entail departments, but the front end of it will include you know, the makeup of our funds, where the money comes from. Sort of even what I have right now is I kind of have like a dollar bill up on the screen. I have it segmented up to say, this is what the school district gets, this is what the city of Belvedere gets, this is what the county gets, things like that. So yeah, it'll definitely detail where that, I guess the makeup of our revenues and how we receive that money in.
Terrific. Thank you, Kevin. We can each bring our tax bill and use that as a tutorial, a primer of where the money, you know, where the money goes to, I suppose. Thank you very much, Kevin. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Chairman Johnson?
Kevin, just one thing I'd like to make sure we touch base on too is the differences in the funds that we have. You know, we have the highway fund, the general fund, which is, everybody thinks everything is in the general fund, but what does that make up? What does it cover? And those things, and we've got all these other memorial funds and whatnot, what we can and can't utilize for what. So just to make sure we touch on all that to teach board members.
Anybody else have any questions for Kevin? All right. Moving on to building department. Mr. Bliss.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, 2020 was quite a year for my department. I got to tell you, going into a pandemic, I was pretty nervous as to how it's going to affect the construction industry. And I had no idea that construction was going to take off the way it did, not just locally, regionally, nationwide. To give you an idea, up there on the screen, our budget's $141,000. Our income was nearly $350,000. We average about $200,000 in income the last several years. Our permits issued 817. We have averaged pretty consistently right around 500. So that's been quite an increase in a short amount of time because everything really took off about April. And we averaged, I'd say, about 100 permits a month through the construction season. And it's only recently just dropped off. So now I'm kind of able to get my feet under me and start working on some things that I really need to get to that have fallen by the wayside. Some of the highlights, mainly about half those permits were roofing permits due to a hailstorm. And we had a lot of residential rooftop solar and 2 solar farms. So it was a very busy year. So anybody has any questions?
Anybody questions for Drew? Steve?
Yeah, Drew, as you know, I'm aware of some of the things that you have to do in the building department. During the busy times of the year, do you get any assistance? Like, I know when I used to deal with it, sometimes I'd get a part-time help. They wouldn't get any benefits, but I consider these fees that the citizens pay as a user fee. They pay for a service. So do you get any kind of help that can come in? I used to get people from, Milwaukee School of Engineering, they just love, they almost do it for nothing. So I was always able to get somebody to come in that could do some of the more mundane jobs in the department, which would free me up for other stuff, and so people aren't standing there waiting, for the concrete truck. Do you do anything like that?
We were not able to do that. About the time we realized what direction we were headed with the workload, it was too late to try and even attempt to interview anyone and get them in, get them trained. By the time I could have done that, we were halfway through.
Okay. Do you see anything coming this year that, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you see anything possibly this year that might be something that you'd be interested in considering?
Well, being that we're at the beginning of our budget cycle and it's not in my budget now, that's not really a possibility for the coming year.
Well, budgets can be adjusted, I would think.
Well, if the workload continues, we may have to entertain that idea.
Because the numbers that you showed her certainly would assist in that situation to help you. So.
It is a good point, Steve. And for those that don't know, we did all this with two people, myself and my zoning inspector.
Well, the only reason I bring it up, and I with respect to everybody, they know that I have walked in shoes, and it's nice to be able to have somebody come in and help take care of the citizens of the community that, are either building a house and don't have to sit there and wait. Especially in years past, they'd always look at the budget. And if the budget, like yours, then you're fortunate that you can bring in that kind of income. You can certainly take some of that income and use it towards the building department, in my opinion, to help. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Would love that. Thank you.
Any other questions in the boardroom? Any questions on the phone?
No questions. Am I audible, Mr. Chairman? My call got dropped. I'm back on. This is Wiltsey.
You are live.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 7-TAC3 GIS.
Hello, this is Tammy. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi. I don't have much. I've been kind of dividing my time between the acreage problem the assessment office has and still trying to create that tax map atlas for the recorder's office. I did yesterday. Justin sent out an email to a few of us about the roads he's going to be trying to repave in the summer or spring, and there was some annexation questions. So I started researching those for him, and I decided I'm doing a lot of research on that. So I'm actually going to start creating a GIS layer that separates each out so that we can have documentation for each annexation. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And that's about it.
Anybody have questions for Tammy in the boardroom? Anybody online have questions for Tammy? All right, thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
7-TAC4 planning, Izzy.
Thank you. Good evening. Planning department has been receiving and reviewing several land use applications. We've received 2 special use applications, which will be going through the planning process this month and into February. I'm also working on updating the zoning ordinance in the form of a text amendment, which you will see today. And also in the upcoming quarter, you will see comprehensive plan amendments too that I'm working on as well. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Izzy in the boardroom? Anybody online? Thank you, Izzy. Next up is written monthly department reports and updates. Does anybody have any questions on any of those listed? I see or hear none. Moving to new business. I need to move to approve claims with understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles. Bill Robinson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Locksmith. We get a motion?
Make that motion.
Second. Motion made by Steve Schubacher, seconded by Bill Robinson. Tax 1720 zoning ordinance text amendment.
Hold on, Chief. First, you have to have discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we got a motion, so we need to ask for discussion. Any discussion?
Any discussion? Pardon my rookie.
That's okay. And if there's no discussion, then we have a vote. So you call for the vote and then I'll call a roll.
Okay, I call for a vote.
Yep, there you go. Roll call. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Kieske.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wilson.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Shabak.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robinson.
Yes.
Sherry Martell.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, 9.2, zoning ordinance text amendment. Izzy.
Thank you. All right, I do have a presentation so you can follow along. Oh, keep going, sorry.
Oh.
I thought it was,
One second. Is it attached?
no, it's the one in the pen drive. Is it not on there? Can you go back to there? Can you scroll down?
It's that PowerPoint, isn't it? That one?
You just keep going down
In here?
all the way. Right there. It's the green, right before the green box. The one up. One more. There we are. Sorry. It should have been organized differently. Okay, here we go. This is a text amendment in the zoning ordinance, TA 17-2020. ZBA directed staff to look at the restrictiveness of the code in regards to smaller accessory structures in residential districts. Currently, there are two types of accessory structures that are permitted in residential districts. One, an 800 square foot in area or 400 square feet per acre or greater structure is allowed, and a 120 square foot in area structure or 3% of the lot, whichever is less, structure is allowed. So we have a larger scale and a smaller scale accessory structure that are allowed in residential districts. However, both of them have to meet the current accessory structure setbacks. Next. So here's just a graph, a visual to show you what I'm talking about. So currently, all accessory structures, larger scale and smaller scale, must meet 15 feet of setbacks for the rear and the side. Again, this is has no regards to size in our code right now. So we wanted to see if we can make that distinction more clear and give relief to these smaller accessory structures in residential districts. Next. So I looked at the past zoning ordinances. In 73 and 79, the ordinance permitted accessory structures in the rear yard with no restrictions. However, it still required 15 feet from the side. Again, no mention of size or the distinction between a smaller and a larger scale. And between 84 and 2002, an accessory structure was allowed or permitted 5 feet away from the rear property line, and it still would have to meet the 15 feet. And again, keep in mind there's no distinction between these smaller scale and larger scale accessory structures. I also did some research in various counties, and they had smaller setbacks for these accessory structures, and some had distinction for size and some didn't. Next. The zoning board also asked me to look at various residential subdivisions, and I took a look at 3. I did a basic inventory and scanned aerials. So I looked at Belmar, which was platted in 1965, And if you just click through, Kevin, thank you. So essentially what I saw were smaller accessory structures in the rear yard, which would have been permitted during the time that these subdivisions were platted, but also they're much smaller in scale, which the code back then had no distinction of. Next. So I looked at Beaver Creek as well. Again, this was platted in 76. And again, I saw the same thing, smaller scale, smaller accessory structures really close to the rear yard, again, which would be permitted. Some, of course, in the side yard. But again, if they're smaller, there really was no distinction for these larger scale accessory structures then as there is now. Next. This is just, I also looked at Stanley Estates, which is a subdivision that was platted in 77. And again, I saw the same thing, accessory structures in the rear yard and some in the side, but they're much smaller than a typical garage would look like. Next. It's kind of hard to see, but I circled some of those smaller accessory structures that were located within those setbacks. Okay, so after the research, we had public hearing, ZBA had discussions, and I also spoke with building and zoning. There were 3 proposed setbacks. So the first option was going kind of back to what our previous code said, 5 feet from the rear, 15 from the side. Another option was making them both 5 feet, and a third option was making the rear setback 5 and the side setback 10. Next. So that is, that is what we will be focusing on, and this is based on reducing nonconformities that are currently in our residential subdivisions, giving relief for that smaller scale accessory structure or utility storage, and still mitigating these concerns with neighbors, and of course taking into consideration the rural setting. So we will be updating those sections in the code. And of course, speaking with building and zoning, we wanted to make sure we updated that maximum area of the smaller accessory structure to align with the building code. So that will be updated from 120 square feet in area to 200 square feet. And you will see that what I'm talking about in the next few slides. All right, so ZBA recommended in favor of text amendment 17, 2020 as presented on December 22nd, 3-0. And so I'm just gonna go through the changes that I'm talking about. So first, next, it's section 5.2.1F. Currently there's no language in the code, but it will be, if you click next, I kind of did a side-by-side. So this section in the code speaks to the larger scale accessory structures that are permitted in residential subdivisions. And we would be adding language in that section that refers to a possibility of having an additional smaller accessory structure on the lot, therefore allowing that larger scale and then that smaller utility storage or smaller accessory structure within those setbacks. So it references, next, that second part of the code, 5.2.2, number 4, which then, next, references the tool, garden shed, smaller accessory structures not otherwise listed. And so it will be updating that area from 120 to the 200 square feet, as you see on the side-by-side. And then next, the final section that we will update is the part in the code that outlines what obstructions are permitted in the yards. Next. So currently there is no obstruction permitted in regards to a smaller accessory structure. And so we will be adding language that will permit an accessory structure in the side and rear yard. Of course, making sure that it's 5 feet from the rear and 10 feet from the side. Next. So staff is recommending approval of these changes of those 3 text amendments that will essentially reduce the rear and side setbacks for smaller accessory structures in residential districts.
Thank you, Izzy. Chairman Johnson?
Izzy, just curiosity, I guess, more than anything, why not 5 and 5?
Right. So that was a discussion that ZBA had, and the consideration was neighbors mitigating that still concerns that have come up of too much space in the side. Rear, people still generally tend to be like, well, that's far away, but side can be a little bit more intrusive. So that's what ZBA discussed. That was discussed at public hearing. And so we're kind of splitting the difference, still keeping those concerns intact.
is I guess I personally would rather see a 5 and 5. It's consistent, it's simple for people to know and learn. And I guess for me, I mean, you could put a fence right on the property line, so is that obtrusive or not? Or if you've got a small structure 5 feet from the property line, it's still on your property, so yeah, I would certainly be willing to entertain 5 and 5 and adjust it.
Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, hi, could you tell me if these recommendations you're adding, could HOAs utilize these? Are some HOAs not wanting to utilize these? Because some HOAs say you can't buy it, you could not put a structure on the HOA properties.
Right, and the county doesn't regulate that. So HOAs can be more restrictive, and it's up to them to enforce that. Yes.
Anybody else in the room have questions for Izzy? Mr. Schumacher?
I really don't have a question, but here I go again. I've dealt with that for years. This needs really to be cleaned up. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing. I would agree with the chair that 5 and 5 would work well. In the city of Belvedere, they have 3 and 3 for detached accessory buildings. To my knowledge, it doesn't violate any of the fire codes or anything like that, again, to my knowledge. So I would agree with the chair that I think the 5 and 5 would work well. This will also help bring in a lot of these structures into compliance. It won't hit every one, but I'm very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Anybody else in the room have questions for Izzy? Anybody on the phone have questions for Izzy? All right, thank you, Izzy.
Ryan, sorry. You want us to, do you need us to move on this?
Yeah, so if you do
Okay.
have a motion to change, if you want to make that.
I would move to adjust the text amendment to be 5 and 5, 5 rear setback and 5 feet.
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Vote on that.
I do. I'm just making a note. Ask if there's any discussion.
Any discussion in regards to the 5 foot by 5 foot ordinances? In the room? On the phone, anybody have any discussion?
Yes, I think it should be left the way.
Sherry, start out with Sherry Bartel.
Yes, I think it should be left the other way because we have too many people in town here and in the country or wherever that will argue over lot lines. And the further away they are from a lot line, I think the safer it would be. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sherry. Sherry Giesky.
Thank you, Ryan. I just, it's kind of along the same lines, but Izzy, can you tell me where this, you mentioned it before, where this 5 feet from the rear and 10 from the side came from? I was just, can you can you state that again? Because it came out of the conversations I think that all these people had. Is that in fact correct?
Yeah, so we discussed those 3 options, the 515, 55, and the 510. And we just wanted to make sure that we were reducing as many nonconformities as possible, which we're not going to get all of them, as Mr. Schumacher pointed out. We wanted to give relief from the code to allow these smaller structures, but also mitigate concerns with neighbors, speaking again to that property line issue, but also keeping in mind the rule setting of these residential subdivisions. They are located in the county. People still do expect to have space between their neighbors. That's the only reason that we went sort of splitting that difference.
Ryan, may I have a follow-up?
You may.
So Izzy, this was a discussion among quite a few people, and the resulting decision was the 5 feet from rear and 10 feet from the side?
That was the discussion that we had with the Zoning Board of Appeals During the public hearing, we really didn't have any public comment, but the board discussed this and agreed on this and pushed that forward.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? Dave Wiltsey.
Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you. My experience as the city attorney for Des Plaines for 19 years dealt a lot with situations in which a setback line also had to be taken into consideration with a utility easement. Commonly on the most of the lots you're talking about, is there a utility easement across the back rear line, or the side for that matter?
Yes, so there are residential subdivisions that do have 5 feet utility easements or 10 feet. And that's something that we would check when they do come get their zoning certificate to ensure that it's not within a setback.
Okay, so the applicant may want it in 5 feet, and then you do a search and realize there's a 10-foot easement and tell them they can't do that. Is that correct?
Yes, we would have to do that if it is the 5 and 5. We would do that.
Yeah, you would say no because if there's a 10-foot. I want to be clear because it's a little bit difficult with the phone conversation part of it here. That you would say no because there's a 10-foot utility easement.
Right, it would have to be away from the easement. Yes, can't be on it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am.
What I'm understanding is that, if I may, is that the ordinance that's set right now, there'd be a lot of people that have lived there that are in violation of the ordinance. So
Yes.
what you're doing is trying to
Reduce that non-conforming, yes. And of course, give relief for these new smaller accessory structures that people want to put on.
Okay, thank you. On that,
Ryan,
Yes.
I have one more question. Izzy, the people that already have buildings or little, but I guess buildings up already, that aren't compliant, and you're gonna make some compliant, will the rest of them basically be grandfathered in for what they already have up?
Right, so any structure that's non-conforming to our code now and with any changes would be grandfathered, so it would be able to continue to exist until it is no longer existing. Then it would have to conform to the code.
Thank you.
Mr. Riley?
And just, because I'm not familiar with a lot of this stuff, so if there was an easement that goes through that's within that, where you can't build, is there any variance for something like that? Like, let's say you can't, just, it'd be an absolute no, they couldn't build the building no matter what.
The only way that somebody can build on an easement if it gets vacated. So if the utility company says, yeah, we actually don't need it, you can vacate it, then you can put something on top of it. But typically, yes, those are occupied and we can't build over easements.
But we wouldn't give them a variance to go another couple feet from where that utility easement is to put their shed in though, right? It would have to be within 5 feet of the lot line.
I'm not understanding.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe I'm not explaining it, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
So the way it would work, so if you have your property line and you have a utility easement.
Right.
That follows that property line, generally,
Sure.
say be 5 feet on each side of that property line is your utility easement.
Right.
So you're not allowed to put a structure or a permanent structure in that easement, right? So you could stay just right at 5 feet if it were 5 feet, or if it were
Yes.
10 feet, you could be at 10 feet.
Okay.
But you can't put it on it. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't, but should they do that, then if something happens, they have to come through and do something on that
You're gonna
utility.
take it down.
You have to move the structure or tear it down.
This, like I said, for years, I dealt with this on the enforcement side, and I always kind of wondered,
Sure.
I get it. All right, thank you.
Does anybody else in the room or on the phone have a question or comment before we vote?
Yes, Ray Larson here.
Go ahead, Ray.
Izzy, could you repeat your answer for Mrs. Bartel's question about the other buildings that will still not be in conformance with this change?
Sure. So the zoning ordinance says that these structures can continue to exist until they no longer exist. So if it gets torn down, if something happens to it, The new structure would have to conform to the standards in the code.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I didn't really hear that. And if I could keep going, so we're kind of combining two things together. We're looking at trying to get other ones to conform with our code, but we're also allowing future ones to be able to use these reduced setbacks, is what it sounds like to me. So we're actually doing two things at the same time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a consequence of amending the code. Yes, sir.
What was the original reason to do this? For new buildings or for existing ones?
There was a concern in residential subdivisions that the code was too restrictive for smaller accessory structures. And so we started to look at that and realize that every single accessory structure has to meet the 15-foot setback. And for these smaller structures, the board felt that they could be closer to the setbacks or to the property lines.
Yes. So this is really about new building structures. It's not really about old ones to conform.
That's right.
Because basically they don't have to conform because they're basically, as Mrs. Bartelt kind of said, grandfathered in, correct?
That's correct. It's just an outcome of this amendment, yes.
Anything else?
Okay, thanks.
Anyone in the room? All right, I think we can push to vote.
All right, this is a vote on the amendment of changing it to 5-foot and 5-foot setbacks. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Giesky,
No.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartell,
No, because we're changing the will of the people.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
That amendment carries. So then it would be, any discussion on the motion or the text amendment as amended?
Any discussion in the boardroom? Any discussion on the phone?
No problem. This is for the text amendment as amended. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Giesky,
I'm sorry, Carl. What are we voting on now?
and we're voting on the text amendment as amended with the 5-by-5 setbacks. So the amendment of changing it from
Okay.
5-foot
All right.
rear and the 10-foot
I
side.
got it.
Right. So this is the motion as amended.
Yes. Yes.
Yes?
Thank you.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Shabaka.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartell,
No,
Rodney Wright,
Yes.
carries.
Thank you, Izzy.
Yes.
We are moving to 9.7, which was moved. Should be, okay.
9.3 is lot of record.
Yeah, lot of record, correct. 9.3 lot of record. Go ahead.
Thank you. All right. So what I wanted to do tonight is give a brief overview of the conversations that we've been having on lot of record, especially with the new board members. I wanted to do that to hopefully get everyone up to speed and know what the issue is with lot of record. So that's what we're going to do. So next. First things first, let's talk about what zoning is. So zoning is a classification of property for a particular use. It must be reasonable and it does take into consideration the best interest of the general public. Lot of record is simply a legally created parcel, the deed of which is recorded in the Boone County Clerk and Recorder's Office. A1, which I will reference, is the Agricultural Preservation District, also referred to as the Prime Agricultural District in 1978. And A2, which is the Agricultural Residential District, or as it was referred to in 1978, Rural Residential. So here's a bit of history. We've heard this from Attorney Mayville, but I wanted to give a brief overview of it. I would also encourage the board members to watch that meeting again, which is available on our Facebook page, to also just get another reminder of the conversation. So in 1958, Boone County had adopted its first zoning ordinance. In 1973, there was a comprehensive revision, which now included the definition of lot of record, which again was simply defined as a lot which is part of a subdivision, the plat of which has been duly recorded, or a parcel of land, the deed of which is recorded prior to the adoption of the ordinance. So it just meant that it was a parcel that was recorded and that was a lot of record. In 1978, prime agriculture was defined and presented, and this would require that no more non-farm residents would be able to be built in this prime ag land or the A1 district as we know it today. In 1979, rural residential district was presented as a reaction to people that had bought A1 property and would no longer be able to build their non-farm single-family residence on there. And of course, with that also came the grandfather clause, which said, okay, if you did buy a property prior to 1978 and it is A1, you will be able to build a house on it. And since then, there have been no changes really to our ordinance, but there have been many interpretations. Next. All right, so the purpose and intent historically, again, this is based on Attorney Mayville's documents and recollection of this process since he was part of this process. In 1978, that ordinance was a reaction to protect prime agricultural land from the urban population moving rapidly into the rural setting. In 1979, the ordinance was a reaction to protect those who had already purchased property in the A1 to be allowed to build that single family home. Again, that's a non-farm. This was never intended to not allow a single family home on a property that was recorded prior to 1978 if there was a division or an addition or any changes to the legal. So that was never the intention. There would always be one single family non-farm home permitted. Next. So if we go into specifics, A1, that prime agriculture district, was to be used only for ag purposes. However, in 1979, farm dwellings were still permitted. A2 then was created for non-farm dwellings. However, to rezone to that district, there's a list of conditions that need to be met. In 1984, farm dwellings were still permitted in A1, and the language varies some, and we'll jump into that right now. Next. In 1989, farm dwellings were still permitted in A1. In 91, single-family farm dwellings were permitted in A1 as well as in 2002. Between 2008 and 2015, that farm dwelling language was removed and single-family residents were only permitted in A1 based on that grandfather clause, which stated that only undeveloped lots of record prior to 1978 would be allowed one single-family residence. Again, no mention of farm, a residence or anything, it's just a non-farm single-family residence. Next. So the interpretations today, based on this lot of record, is if the recorded undeveloped lot of record as defined in the ordinance prior to 1978 was divided, combined, or any changes to the legal description in any way, it is no longer buildable with a single-family home. Next. The original purpose and intent of this language was if a recorded, undeveloped lot of record as defined in the ordinance prior to 1978 was divided, combined, or any legal changes in any way, it would still be eligible for at least one single-family home. Now there's a question and underlying all of this, next, which is what if we have this established parcel prior to 1978 but it has been divided, and there is already a house on that parent parcel or on one of the divided parcels, and we have an owner of the other part of the divided parcel who now wants to build a home. That's the underlying question that we have to answer next. Okay, so what are ways that we can build a single-family home in A1 today? So if you have an undeveloped parcel that was established and recorded prior to 1978, before any changes, then you can build a home. If a landowner has 60+ acres and would like to place in an easement for conservation or a deed restriction, then get a special use permit, then you would be able to build a single-family home if it gets approved. If a landowner has established under the current interpretation that is a lot of record, or there's an existing house, but they would like to transfer it to another lot that doesn't have that same definition of lot of record, they could transfer it to that lot, but they have to get a special use permit, and if it gets approved, then they could get a single-family home. If there's an A1 parcel of land that is able to fulfill various requirements and conditions to deem it not prime ag land, then apply for rezoning to A2, then they would be able to build a single-family home. Next, there are concerns with this, however, because according to Boone County Soil and Water, there are very few A1 parcels of land that would be able to comply with the requirements, including the LISA score, to be rezoned to A2. So, should there be a distinction for farm dwellings again? Should we consider adding a second home on the farm for family? Family is defined very specifically in our code. But if we're going to consider that, then we also have to consider those that want to build a home on 5 acres or the 10-acre parcels that have already been divided. There's a parent parcel that already has a home on it, but these parcels will not be farmed in the traditional sense, and they cannot be rezoned because the LISA score is too high. We would need to consider that too. And again, that's the question. What do we do with those other lots? Next. So to answer that, what's the next step? We either adopt this original intent of lot of record. So we're looking at undeveloped. Even if there have been divisions or combinations or any legal changes, it would still allow one single family home. If there's a single family home that has already been constructed on this original or parent parcel, or on one of the divisions, that underlying question comes back. How can someone build a home? Either we're going to say, well, it's not possible anymore because it can't be rezoned to A2, it's not 60 acres or more, it can't be an easement, or is this where we consider special use language? The last option is keeping the same interpretations that we have today. However, the language in the code would still have to be updated to clarify, to make sure that the code can be applied to everyone and everybody knows those conditions and what they have to do in order to make it a lot of record as defined today. Okay, that's my very quick overview.
Quick, a lot of information.
Yes, it's very.
Discussion in the board, Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Lizzie, one thing I forgot, I thought you were going to bring it up, but if you totally removed a lot of record.
Okay.
Where's your results?
We would still have to do something with how does someone build a home in A1? It would have to be permission outright, which I doubt would work for the goals and the goals of the code and the comprehensive plan, or do a special use language that we would look at case by case basis. We could put conditions. We spoke about this briefly, but capping it at 10 acres, allowing 2 acres for the home and leaving the rest to be open, green space, things like that. But yeah, we would have to do something still.
Thank you. Anybody else in the boardroom? Mr. Schubacher.
Yeah, what brought this to a head? What you're doing right here, what brought this up?
There have been a lot of concerns from various landowners on both sides. So I have a lot of record as defined today. It's an undeveloped parcel that has stayed the same since 1978, and I can build a home on it. Or, well, I have this 20-acre parcel that I want to build a home on, but the parent parcel already has a home. How do I do it? We've had a lot of those come up. A lot of people looking for that designation on their lots to be able to build a home, and we realize that they cannot. So that has been an issue that has been come up it's my understanding, for a long time. And then our code doesn't really have those distinctions laid out clear. So you cannot build a home in A1 because it has been divided, combined. That's not in the code. Those are interpretations that we apply today. So that's why I would ask that if that's what we want to continue doing, that the code reflect that.
I think that lot of record is May 10th, 1978.
Yeah.
And part of that is that if that lot was created before there, then if you did the one-time split, the thing of it is, well, once you do that split, then it is no longer a lot of record as of that date.
Right.
There's where you lose it.
And that's an interpretation because it's not explicitly said in the code. That was never the intent according to the previous documents and things like that.
Right.
But yes, that's correct. That's what we look at it today. And that's the issue that we're trying to resolve.
Okay.
Anybody else in the boardroom? Anybody online?
This is Tricia.
Go ahead, Tricia.
Okay, I just wanted to mention on Izzy's last point is that when there's different planners in her position and different state's attorneys in my position, there has been different interpretations since 1978, which has led to, I think, the discussion that we're having here tonight as well. That so going forward, every person would be treated the same going forward. And that's why some clarification needs to be done.
Thank you, Tricia. Go ahead, Izzy.
Okay, Mr. Carlisle, you also asked me to look at the comprehensive plan and what it said about lot of record or ag and things like that. So I looked at the housing section and I looked at the land use section. The housing section calls for more affordable housing, which really wouldn't relate to what we're talking about. The land use section talks about definitely preserving the prime ag land, however, leaving room for this economic growth. And the definition of agriculture changed to include various other ag tourism, different types of ag businesses that can be added. So I think that's where we can possibly look. The special use conditions, I know we've had some petitions for people that want to do something ag related that they need more space for. So that could be something too that we put as a condition for a special use permit perhaps, but there isn't anything explicitly on lot of record in the comprehensive.
Mr. Van Laar?
Do we know how many lots of record we have right now in the county?
So when you say that, I assume you're referring to these buildable lots, right? And again, that's a problem because lot of record is very loosely, it's a definition to say only a lot that was recorded in 1978, which could mean a lot. So what I did is I did a query on our system, our GIS system, to pull out all the rural lots that have no buildings on. And it came out to 3,614. That doesn't mean that that's how many like buildable lots we have, but that's the starting point where we would have to go look and see.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Anybody else on the phone or in the boardroom with a question for Izzy?
Dave Wiltsey.
Go ahead, Dave.
So
This is Sharon. Go ahead.
Looking at the three recommendations, and so we're not really looking at a language change right now. You are recommending that the definition should be not moved from the 1978 for lot of record. Then you're going to do an inventory and then review the old A2 district, right? So we don't have any, I don't see any language for changing. You're just kind of bringing us up to speed where this discussion is, correct?
So yeah, I did a history, a history of what we've been discussing for lot of record, but there would have to be language changes to either clarify this idea of a buildable lot of record in A1 or to change those conditions to allow single-family homes in A1 in a different way other than the 1978 regulation.
So you'll bring those forward to us if you feel that you need that clarification in language later.
We do, and I would like the board to start considering what they would like me to work on so that we can start discussing one way or the other. And so I would also encourage the board members to look at all of this information. I know it's a lot. Review the video and contact me with questions, write your questions down. And I definitely would like direction on how we can move forward and what you would like me to work on.
Chairman Johnson.
Just for all the new board members, I think the first part Izzy is trying to do is just educate everybody a little bit on lot of record. This is something that started at the end of the last board. So it's important to get everybody up to speed, to understand it. It's kind of a difficult concept, and I'm glad Izzy's the one that gets to really dig into this deep. But this is just kind of the beginning stages. I would personally anticipate this is going to take 2 or 3 months to at least to go through. We're going to hear from all the people that could or would be affected by it, and make sure we do all the due diligence and find all the information out we need. So it's just kind of a starting point right now.
Vice Chairman Giesky, did you have something to say?
This is Sharon Giesky. Were you talking to me, Ryan?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
couldn't. This thing, my internet keeps going in and out. I apologize. I don't really have a question. I just have a comment. I think Izzy did a very admirable job of taking a very complicated issue and laying it out for us to start chewing on it. And I do appreciate the fact that Tricia weighed in and said, there's code versus interpretation, and perhaps that's sort of the foundation or the baseline from which we need to start looking at things. So I think you did an excellent job, Izzy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I agree.
Anybody else?
Ray Larson here.
Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, so we're always talking about this lot of record with the A1 district. Are there, when we look at the R1 district and maybe the lot has not been improved, but can it not have a lot of record and then be built upon, or does a residential lot need to have a lot of record?
No, so if a lot right now is zoned R1, RE, RTN, it would be allowed a single family home because that zoning district, that's the main purpose of that. A2 is a rural residential district, which also would allow a single family home. However, A1 is agricultural preservation, so that purpose and intent of that district changes, and that's why we're being careful on who, what, where single family homes can be built.
Yeah, so this lot of record you're saying only applies to A1 property.
Yes, this issue with buildable lots of record applies only to A1, yes.
Okay. I have something, I don't know, maybe I'll get a hold of you or Mr. Bliss, and because I actually have a lot that's supposedly unbuildable, even though it's in the R1 district, and it's supposedly because it does not have a lot of record, but maybe we can look into that at some time.
Yes, definitely.
Anybody else for Izzy? All right, thank you, Izzy. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Van Laar. I apologize.
Do you have an example of an R2? Would that be a subdivision or would that be more, A2, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Do you have an example of that?
So A2s pop up all over the county. And these lots presumably would have passed all the conditions in A2. Lisa score has been met, which the Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District assesses. But yeah, it's not specifically to a residential subdivision. That's more R1 or RE.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Izzy. Moving along to 9.3.5. Proposal for building permit, cloud permit solution. All right, Kevin.
Thank you. I can introduce we have a guest speaker with us tonight. In an ongoing effort to sort of innovate, modernize, and improve processes, we have been looking at a different solution to how we process building permits and building a permit. Right now, it's very antiquated, all paper-based, isn't really user-friendly to the public, and we want to in the COVID era, and then obviously beyond, be able to provide an online solution for our residents and our contractors, guests to apply for building permits in an easy way and in a much user-friendly fashion. So tonight, we wanted to have our vendor present a short presentation, introduce the company, and field any questions. So I will turn over to Nate Koresh, he's the Vice President of Sales for Cloud Permit.
Hello, thank you everybody for having me today. And Izzy, I'm not sure what they pay you, but you need a raise. Again, thanks for being here. I'm the VP of Sales, Cloud Permit, and I'd like to walk you through kind of, what we do, how we do it, and why I feel it's important to Boone County. It's great to hear that, the county is growing, and I think a software like ours will help modernize the process to make building anything from, a pole barn or a shed to a subdivision much easier for both the staff and the residents. So next slide, please. So what we do is we give municipal building departments of all sizes access to tools and software that traditionally have only been accessible to the largest cities and counties. So I used to actually work for some of the larger, very large companies. And, we primarily focused on what we call enterprise cities. I sold the city of San Diego, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis, Indiana. So these big, large centers, because typically that's where the money's at. But as Drew can attest, and Izzy and I spoke with Diane as well, and Kevin knows, a smaller county, faces the same challenges, right? Usually they don't have the money to throw at it. I mean, what Drew did with such a small department, getting out 817 permits was quite impressive. So again, I'm hoping that our software can help make that process both easier for his staff, him and Diane, and for your residents. Next slide, please. So, they say pictures are worth 1,000 words. So here's currently, this is what you're doing right now. Things change over time and we try to modernize. But again, where you're at now, the software is 10 years old, and quite truthfully, software that's 10 days old is already old. So you're definitely in the need for an upgrade, and I hope Cloud Permit can have the opportunity to show you what we can do. Next slide, please. So we are a full end-to-end process. That means that the applicant can access our software 24/7, 365, even when the pandemic's in full effect and you can't stop by to drop information off, bring in paperwork, things like that. So somebody's trying to, do a project on the weekend or after hours, after work, they're always going to have access to our tools. Same with the staff. Next. So again, they can apply for a project 24/7, 365. We actually have workflow that make it easy for applicants to fill out the information. So instead of people calling all the time asking, hey, I'm not sure what this means, or if I need this, well, everything is set up in the system that where if they don't answer certain questions, if they don't provide certain pieces of information, they can't submit the application. And I know Drew and I spoke, and a large majority of the applications that are received now are either incomplete or incorrect. And then Drew or somebody has to go chase that person down to get the right information. Well, software like ours will not eliminate that 100%, but somewhere between 85 and 90%. People can still find a way to screw it up, but just not as often. Next slide, please. So the nice part is that if you have, builders or people managing multiple projects, everything is available right in that workspace. So you can be doing one project on one piece of property, or several projects in the same property, or different projects in different properties. And again, everybody's going to work from the same place. Homeowners can collaborate with their contractors, builders, and architects, give them access to the information, and people can work together, and it's a lot more efficient process. Next, please. Things like drawings, site plans, and blueprints, those all get uploaded into the actual application. So no more dropping off these gigantic, drawings that are, 6 feet wide. All the files are stored in that record. So again, if you still require paper documents, that's fine. If not, everything can be stored digitally. As you know, that's a lot more efficient and a lot more cost effective. The nice part too is that documents in the system can be tagged. That way then, if you're looking for a specific site plan or a drawing, you can simply do a query for it and it pulls it right up. No need to go into a filing cabinet or a folder to grab it. Next, please, Kevin. Also with our process with our system, As things happen throughout the process, the applicant receives an email. What does that do? That cuts down on the Kevin, Drew, where's my project? Where are you at in the process? It's similar like when you order a pizza, like the Domino's pizza tracker, you're notified, your pizza's being made, it's in the oven, it's up for delivery, same thing. And again, when our system or systems like ours are up and running, it reduces the number of incoming inquiries, either email, phone calls, or walk-ins, again, by about 85 or 90%. Next, please. For the staff, there's an automated chat tool. So whomever can communicate with the applicant, all those chats are logged and archived. So if somebody had a question and then your department or somebody at the county answers the question, all that information is saved, and that eliminates the he said, she said. Well, you told me it was going to be X, or you told me I needed Y. Well, actually, let's go back to the record, and there's your information. And the nice part too is that when the staff or the applicant receives a message, they're alerted in their dashboard and they can take care of it right away. And please feel free, as I'm going through this, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop and ask me. I'll be happy to answer. Next, please. So the staff comes in for their day and they can review all the work that they have for the day. I'm sure Drew and the team kind of have their own processes now, probably sticky notes and, paper ledgers. But again, everything can be worked on in one dashboard, one easy to find place. The nice part about it is that if somebody does come in with a paper application, because I do know that software is not going to, eliminate Mrs. Jones or Mr. Smith that wants to still turn in that paper application, not a problem. You can either scan it into the system with a scanner and it gets put right in, or the staff could just enter it in by hand, which I'm sure they're doing a lot of that now. So again, for people that still want to do it the old fashioned way, it can still work for them as well. Next, please. All the information needed to do the review of the inspection process, the review of the application, again, those files, the blueprints, the documents, all right there. They can open them up and view them on their laptop or on their phone. Again, eliminates the need for having to go and pull that out of a folder or pull it out of a filing cabinet. All the information is right there. When we come in and set up your system, we will work with the team to automate the workflow processes. But again, if there's additional reviews that might be needed by fire, by an environmental conservation, we can add those as well, and they can all have access to the system. The nice part about our software is that you buy one license, and then as many departments as want are able to use that. So we don't nickel and dime you to death. It's you buy it once and everybody can use it. Next, please. Inspections. So instead of going out and with your old pad and paper doing the inspection, everything's available again through the application. You can do an inspection from your smartphone. You can do it from your laptop. No need to carry paper with you or forget blueprints back in the office and not be able to do the inspection. Everything in that file is available on your phone 24/7, 365, right in the palm of your hand. Next, please. Oh, real quick, go back up. Also, for that parcel or that piece of property, any previous inspections, any previous violations, anything like that, again, are known and they're saved and stored in the system. So if you show up and you see that, oh man, 2 years ago they did X and maybe that for whatever reason that hadn't been resolved, all that information's right there and you can pull it up at any time. You don't have to remember or nothing is forgotten. It's all right there on your record. Next, please, Kevin. In terms of reporting, any piece of data that goes into the system can easily be pulled out. We set up the reports for you, or we would show you how to configure them on your own. You can have the reports run weekly, daily, quarterly, whatever you want. But again, every single piece of information that is entered into the system can be pulled out, sliced and diced any way that you want, exported into a spreadsheet, whatever you'd like to do with it. Next. So I did hear there was somebody on the phone that talked about GIS. So we do take your zoning map and we incorporate it into your website for Boone County should we get to work with you. So any sort of parcel ID, parcel details, zoning information, anything that you want displayed about that parcel, about that piece of property will be displayed for the resident, for somebody looking to do a project there. So again, going into it, they're gonna know, the whole big thing you were talking about with, could you build here, could you not build there? All that's gonna be based in the parcel ID and they'll have that information right there. Now, obviously people are still gonna call in to verify, but again, the idea is by giving them that information, it reduces the amount of phone calls and emails that the staff has to answer on a daily basis, which can be pretty overwhelming considering it's a two-person team. Next, please. So finally, proven results, again, 24/7, 365, about an 85% decrease in emails, counter visits, phone calls. Within 3 months, if rolled out properly, about 80% of the applications will start coming in through the software. There's about a 50% increase in the time it takes to actually approve or deny an application, because again, everything is automated. You're going to get somewhere around 3 times the, we'll call it, department efficiency. Again, it's going to take what what Drew and Diane are doing, and actually it's going to just, give them more power to get more done faster. Eliminating printing costs and paper costs. And again, the nice part I think is that in a growing county like Boone County, it gives people, builders, contractors, the ability to manage multiple projects at one time. And quite frankly, a lot of people use, or cities and counties will bring in software like ours specifically to attract, retail, to attract development, because again, the more tax dollars that are brought in, the better for the county. So that is my slideshow, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions in the room? Mr. Carlisle?
Yes, sir.
I'm familiar with what you're doing. Is this specifically for the building and permit and planning departments?
Yes. So again, with the way that our license works is that building, planning, zoning, the assessor's office, if they need to get potential, if there's information that goes in around tax dollars, when you buy the license, it can be used anywhere in the county. Everybody and anybody can use it, but specifically it's for zoning, permitting, in the building department and inspections. Yes, sir.
Go ahead,
if I may.
Please.
Tracking emails, tracking chats, it doesn't have a bot, obviously.
It does not, no, sir.
Right, and I see it's a nice tool. Chats are always necessary to have. It's date driven. I'm hearing from you that if they come in on a daily basis, this is the things that have to be done today. These have to be done next week. These have to be done within 30 days.
Yes, sir. That's all set up in the system. We can even put alerts in there that say, if you send out something on the 1st and you need it to be finished by the 15th, we can set it up to where 3 days prior, if it's not received, a reminder set to remind that person. But yes, everything is configurable based upon your current process.
You just hit my second one, was the alerts. Now, alerts don't necessarily have to go to the staff. The alerts also should be able to go to the recipient.
That is absolutely yes. So, hey, Mr. Jones, we're still waiting on that drawing, whatever. Yes, we can have it set up to automatically remind them if it's not received. Or a lot of times, if a permit is issued, you'll expect that the inspection be done within 6 months or 9 months, whatever. You set that up in the system, and if all of a sudden, you're 3 weeks or whatever you determine away from when the inspection should have been done, an alert will be sent that, hey, Mr. Jones, you need to order that inspection. You've got 21 days.
If I may, additionally to the, when you talk about reports, when you have a specific report, you'll have a line item that says, I'm looking on this property, I'm doing this. And if there's any comments or situations on the far right-hand side, my expectation is if there's something that was said on this thing, you can go to a comment section, you can click on an item that says, we chatted about this, we looked at this, we did this on one line item.
Okay.
But instead of going back to the main subject matter or have an item or customer number or whatever it is, instead of going back to that and looking at a whole set of things, it would be on one line item if you had any discussion on that, or would you have to go back?
So the way that our system is currently configured is that, so any sort of chat conversation, yes, you would have to review the whole chat, and you could search it by date or time range, but it would flow just like, kind of like a chronological order of chat wise. But, and then information when it's pulled in a report, again, it can be ran by date and we can segment out the chats by date, but yes, you would have to go back and kind of know where you're looking.
And just to let you know why I'm speaking of this, I'm in the aviation business.
Oh, okay.
So we do service bulletins, ADs, service letters, anything that references to a specific OEM part number. And everything is on one line.
Gotcha.
And so when we do our reliability studies on these things, we know exactly where this thing's in. And we don't have to go back and searching for all different things. It's
understood.
on one line. It's so much easier and it's convenient for the user. And it's a nice setup so far, what I see. And it has GIS, which is a great thing for our planners and our assessors. It's a nice deal. Let's see, one last thing. Oh, you already said about it's got links to phones and iPads.
Yes.
And is it on Oracle base or is it?
So we run everything in the Google Cloud, and the software is I won't bore you with the software code, but it's pretty much everything is web enabled. So it renders on any device where there's a browser. And one part I apologize that I forgot to mention is that Kevin and Drew had let me know that there is a desire at some point to take payments through the system for permits. Again, if we're lucky enough to work with Boone County, we've already been put in contact with your payment processor, whom I believe the Sheriff's Department uses, and we will be able to integrate. So therefore, folks can pay in the actual software, be given a receipt, and kind of do like a shopping cart in a checkout. So everything will be trackable, and there will be no need to try to reconcile payments over here or match them up. Everything's going to be reconcilable pretty much at the end of the day.
That was my last one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I will say this, we are a smaller company. I think I was the 26th or 27th employee when I was hired a couple months ago. And we are very serious about focusing on the smaller markets and the Great Lakes region. That's where we're focusing and starting. And the point that you brought up, I'm not going to guarantee what you said we will build into the software, but we do understand that for us to be successful, you and your crew, your team will always know the process better than us. And so, yes, we're always open to suggestions. And, if we make that happen, maybe we'll give you a small royalty. So, thank you.
Anybody else in the boardroom? Mr. Schumacher?
I'm not too technical savvy on some of this stuff, but blueprints.
Yes, sir.
So you'll send them the blueprints, builders will send their blueprints in to the building department.
Yes, they will upload them as a PDF file, and then they get turned into what's called a PDFA, which is kind of an encrypted file, so it can't be really tampered with. You can do some markups on it, but yes, they will submit it just like you would submit, sending a photo or something like that. Yes, sir.
How secure are those blueprints as far as anybody else seeing your home?
So again, we are a cloud-based solution. So that's why we're accessible 24/7, 365, meaning there's not software put on the laptop. It's accessed through the cloud, and only folks, staff from Boone County that have the proper credentialing are able to log in and see that information. So A, only staff, and B, we can even set it up with permissions to only let certain staff members see certain parts of an application if there was a security protocol.
The builder, if the builder wants to review what he sent in, how does he check his plans that he sent in, his drawing? Does he have access to that?
Yes. So the applicant, anything the applicant uploads, they have access to viewing, again, just like your staff would. Yes, sir.
My concern is, I say I built a new house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want somebody possibly pulling my plans out.
Understood.
To see how my house is laid out.
Understood.
And in the past, I used to help out in the building department. I remember in the past, even people putting in safes.
Okay.
In their home. So my concern is that this isn't something that, when I was in there, people want to come in and say, I want to see Joe's plans. Well, I'm not going to show them to them.
Sure.
Until I contact Joe or the person there if he wants them released. So my concern would be to make sure that these plans for the citizens are secure, where somebody just can't pull it out and say, hey, look at this is over here, there's their living room, there's a bedroom. And so that can't happen, am I right?
That is correct. The only way that somebody could view anything inside, we'll call it your project that would contain your plans, is A, they would have to know your new username and password, or B, again, if you're the homeowner and you wanted to give an architect or a builder access, you could give them access to that file, to your project, but minus somebody, quote unquote, hacking into the system, and I'm going to knock on this, hopefully, wood table. In 11 years, that's never happened. So again, only the homeowner, project owner, and your staff have access to blueprints.
Where have you put this in Illinois? Have you installed this for any other community within our area?
So I actually just came from, I don't know if you're familiar with Speedway, Indiana. So Speedway just committed. Speedway is going to be our first U.S. client. We've got 273 clients throughout the world. We are a Finnish company. We started in Finland back in 2011. In 2018, we went up north to Canada. And again, I was the first U.S. employee. So Speedway, Indiana will be our first.
So, okay, in Illinois, do you have any other people in Illinois who've done this?
No, sir. No, sir. So you're the first ones that I've been talking with. Again, I've only been on the job for 3 months.
Oh, that's right. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Steve, you're correct on your questioning. And you're right, anybody can hack anything.
Absolutely.
And as we all know now, our government being hacked, and anybody can hack anything. So if they really want to try something like that, they can absolutely do that. And I was a Carmel, Indiana resident for many years, so I know exactly where Speedway is and some of those characters down there.
They are characters, yes.
Kevin?
So one thing I wanted to discuss is that obviously we don't usually take on something like this, like a project, without doing some due diligence, and we did just that. We've contacted, our current provider is WebQA, and we pay them around $6,300 a year. We first reached out to them to ask if they could provide something similar to Cloud Permit Solution, which we already knew they probably couldn't, and we did receive confirmation that while they can do something, it depends on the scope of work, which means to us that they don't really specialize in this sort of system, doing, these sort of things online. And then we also reached out to one of their clients in Illinois, Lake in the Hills, and they sort of verify sort of the, our I guess our expectations that while they can provide an online solution, it's really not as robust as this. They really cannot compete in this sector. They're more of the paper-based sort of way that we have now. So that's what we looked at in terms of due diligence. Drew often gets contacted by other providers in this space, but they're typically around $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year. And quite honestly, we just don't have those kind of funds to shell out for.
Well, you did have a record year last year.
Yeah, we did. We did. So, as Nate said, they're really trying to get into, really trying to break into the U.S. sector. They've offered us a very competitive deal. There's really almost. There really isn't any risk at all associated with this deal, actually. They're offering us a year free, and then a 5-year commitment at $10,000 a year. So that's $3,700 above what we're paying now. And with all the added benefits and the convenience to the public, we feel that $3,700 is well worth it per year. So.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, Kevin, I appreciate the due diligence you're doing. I did hear a particular comment of our president of if we come up with a subject matter that actually can be brought in and support this product and actually be an enhancement of their product. And I'm sure that the state's attorney is listening in very well on this. I would like to partake in some type of discussion as we did before on the previous software that gentleman that came in, that we could probably work out something that would be a rebate or some type of benefit to that could even cut back our costs even further.
I'm glad that you did bring that up. So again, previous larger companies that I've worked at, I've often had the idea of, community selling. Obviously, we have to do a good job. The software has to perform. We have to give you the support, or we're not going to grow the business. You're not going to recommend us. The reason, number one, that I'm offering you guys, or we are such a great deal, is because we are trying to break into the market. You got, you're centrally located again in terms of a lot of municipalities in the area. And it would be my goal to do a great job and to use Boone County as a reference, to use, Drew as a reference. So yeah, we're open to that. And we love to collaborate. That's what makes everything better, is working together and taking suggestions and making a product better.
I wanted to add something, and what it sounds like is Mr. Shabaka earlier asked if you, Drew, would entertain an intern type position, and then asked if the budget would reflect or if they could move that budget. But it sounds like what this program is, you're taking the burden off of your department to the point where you wouldn't need that, even if you were starting as you work, if we had a year like we did this year. So that might be a savings there. If he's burdened to that point, you're having an intern and you're paying somebody else, this kind of alleviates that and maybe decreases some stress on the shoulders of your department. Mr. Chairman.
But Drew, would you be willing to respond or talk about this a little bit at all from your standpoint? Give us your opinion. It sounds as though you've been involved in this a little bit, so I'm curious to hear from you.
Sure. One thing with the pandemic, what we did realize is not having to spend so much time at the counter with our customers, that made us far more efficient. That's one of the reasons why I think we were able to issue so many permits, was when this building was closed, people couldn't come in. We were still able to conduct business, but a lot quicker, because the counter time was non-existent. And there's a lot of downtime when we do that, where there's a lot of chit chat about things that are not business related. Problem with that was the setup that we have now is very cumbersome. While we can do the contactless permitting, our customers have to download a paper form off the website, fill it out, and eventually do end up needing to come in and make payment. We're looking to get rid of all of that. So we're anticipating it's going to reduce staff time to get a permit issued.
Go ahead, Chairman.
And I'm assuming you've sat down, went through the software, comfortable with it, comfortable with how it works, the options it gives you, things like that.
Right. I think we've got, 3 hours into this as a tutorial?
I would say at least 3. Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of benefits to this software. One of the times right after we got done with one of the tutorials, as soon as I left the office, I was out on inspection. I needed plans, didn't have them. I had to call Diane. She had to email them to my phone. That whole thing took like half an hour. Where with this setup, I have my tablet, it's right there.
Mr. Carlisle.
And Drew, so the reporting thing, you could probably do what I've done for you guys previously. And have you shown them that type of stuff?
What you put together?
What I put together and showed you guys the graph.
I haven't seen that.
Diane should have had that. I sent her a copy. I have copies here and I can send it to you.
Yeah, if you would please. Yeah. I have not seen it.
Okay, Kevin, I'm more than happy to help work with you on that.
Sure.
But if you're asking about reporting, I think that's what you're asking and.
Well, it was the graphs and charts that said, these cities did this many roofs, this city did this many this did all this.
And yes, with our software, again, you can buy the permit issued, the dollar amount paid, the time it took to get issued for the inspection to happen. Any data that goes into the system can be exported, and you could, and I would be happy to see a demo. I could show you a demo. So yeah, all information that goes in comes out.
Sure, like data stamped and all that, sure.
Yep. And I am talking with some New York townships and villages and smaller cities. Good old New York, they require that you report on your permitting information. I think it's monthly or quarterly. Cuomo wants to know how many permits were issued. Well, we're going to have the ability to have our system automatically dump that information right into that database, again, saving them valuable time instead of running reports and having to put them in. So if you have any sort of state or any other sort of database that needs reporting, we could push that into the system.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Which also, what Drew would like to do, I'm sorry, Drew, when I talk to you, but if he could get a report set up that says, here it is to the county on each month, that's gonna save him a ton of time in dining.
Absolutely. And what we would do is during the implementation process, which we're waiving the setup fee, because again, we really want you as a client. We can set up those reports to be automatically generated. And again, depending on how your structure is set up, you as, county council could also view reports if you wanted to as well on your own liking. So absolutely.
Anybody else in the room that has a question or discussion? Anybody online that has a question?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Dave Wiltsey.
This is Sherry Gieske.
We'll go with Mr. Wiltsey first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, I'm very impressed by this presentation. I have a quick question on slide 23 and slide 25. On slide 23, I was just, I think I'm just misunderstanding. The fourth bullet point talks about a 50% increase in application approval timelines. Does that mean longer time to be able to evaluate the information or longer to get the whole process done?
So if that slide is meant to represent, or that bullet point is that versus a paper process, it'll take you about half the time to process a application versus doing it the paper way. So
okay, so really it's a 50% decrease, not an increase.
2% increase.
See what I'm talking about there? It just kind of threw me a little bit.
Sure, absolutely, yes, sir. That's what 4 years of college will get you. Yes.
Okay, now on the pricing proposal, I notice it's talking about a 10-year. Let me wait just a second. Didn't I see somewhere there was a 10-year proposal, or is it just? I see it's a 5-year agreement. I see that.
Mm-hmm.
5 year on the agreement.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so and then is there any price guarantee that goes, that after year 6 it isn't going to double or triple or quadruple or anything like that?
No. So typically the way that it works is that, we would lock you in at the current price, so there's no uplift. Yes, obviously at the end of 5 years, there is going to be an increase. Is it going to be 100%, 50%? Absolutely not. If I had a guess, and if you wanted to, what we could do is in the negotiations, if you wanted to have options for years 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we could discuss locking in a price at that time. If you choose to stay with us, you would get that price. If not, then you would walk away. But we can offer you some sort of protection if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like that. And Trish, if you're still on the line, I think you know where I'm going on this. Also, particularly since this is a multi-international corporation, if I'm gathering.
Yes, sir.
And just for other board members, I'm a new member to the board, sir. So this is just, I will always be looking at contracts on choice of law and venue, which simply means in this particular case, sir, that we would like Illinois law to apply, and the venue would be Cook County if there's any dispute. Doesn't mean we're litigious. It just means like I've dealt with Xerox and some other corporations where they wanted it to be New Jersey, and I'm like, no, sir, we're not doing that. No New Jersey law, no New York Court of Appeals, that kind of thing.
Okay, absolutely. So we are actually finalizing the contract, and maybe it might be in my email inbox now. I'm going to forward it to Kevin, and then I said, absolutely, please review it, and any suggestions that you have that would expedite the process, please let us know, and I'm sure we'd be open to that. Absolutely.
I'm very impressed. Very impressed, sir.
Well, thank you.
That concludes my question.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your questions.
Sherry Gieske, do you have a question?
I have a comment and a question. To follow up with what Dave just said, I totally agree. I'm very, very impressed. And I think one of the things, while it's wonderful for our staff to be more efficient and so on and so forth, at the end of the day, I think this really will be a huge benefit to our citizens, which is, I think, what we're all about. I guess my final question is, what do we need to do to move this forward?
Yeah, wow, that's a great question. Thank you. What we need to do is I'm getting the contract over to Kevin for your team to review. And actually, as I mentioned, Speedway Indiana, they beat you to the punch on the first customer, but that's okay. I have a meeting in Speedway on the 20th, and then I planned on coming back here the day before on the 19th. I know you have a final council meeting. So I'm going to come back, attend that. And obviously, if council votes to proceed earlier that day, I would like to sit down with Drew and his team and start kind of scoping out the next steps to getting this up and running. And our goal would be to have you guys, have the county live sometime, late spring. So we're as eager as you are.
Any more
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Yes, Ray Larson here.
Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, whoever might be able to answer this, did we go out looking for a company like this, or were we solicited by this company?
Yeah, so I tried to cover that a little bit earlier, but yeah, we were actually solicited, and typically Drew, I mean, he probably gets, 15 plus calls a year from different companies. We were, honestly, Cloud Permit and Nate sort of approached us at the perfect time. Typically, they approach us at I guess I'd call it inconvenient times where it just doesn't make any sense. And when Nate approached us, it actually made sense and lined up. So.
Okay, thank you. The streamlining of all the processes seems very desirable to me. Maybe the price in the long term is it's obviously a little more than we're paying, but the easier stuff is, the better, I think.
Thank you, Ray. Chairman?
Just a question for Kevin. Obviously, this is a little more expensive if we were to go with something like this than what we currently pay, so that's what's currently in the budget. Where would the additional funds in our, do we have any contingencies, or how are we going to pick up that additional?
So my thought is that as time goes on, we're in the general fund. This is the general fund expense. This will, $3,700 will be made up somewhere else. Especially under my purview. So whether it be in a different department somewhere throughout the general fund, this will be made up for sure. It's $3,700. I know right now, for instance, the assessor's office is looking at upwards of a $60,000 decrease by moving to a different system. So theoretically, we'll find the funds for this through a decrease in someone else's budget. Through cost savings somewhere else is where it would come from.
Sure, but I guess my concern is I guess I would have to look into it a little bit further, but I don't think we can typically take funds from the assessor's office and use it in the building department, or the admin office and use it in the treasurer's office. So each department has its budget.
Right, so during budget development is where this would take place, is that we would allocate $10,000, so $3,700 increase.
Oh, my bad, the first year's free, so I forget that part.
Oh,
so my concern was
you're saying this year.
Yes. And that's exactly why we do that.
So we could budget it.
Right, yeah, it would be, yes.
Sorry.
That's a good point. Yeah,
Sorry.
Good point to raise is that, yes, the first year implementation is free, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Schumacher?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier tonight, the building department at this time is, in my opinion, self-supporting. So I would think we could look at that and see, as you worry about whether it's going to be covered or not. Again, Kevin, you're the gentleman that knows the numbers better than I would certainly look at that as an expense to the building department. And if the building department brings that money in, that is where that money should be spent.
And not to introduce any more complexity, and I'm sure that I don't understand the counting, how fees and things work. But again, in my previous life at other companies where we were charging literally 30 times this amount, what sometimes they'll do is when they either bring in better technology or new technology, they'll put in place what's called the technology fee. It might be $2 per permit or $1 to help make up the difference. Believe it or not, I sold Omaha, and Omaha had a technology fee was percentage of the permit, and it went up to high as like $150 was above and beyond for a technology fee. So again, believe me, I'm about paying as little as possible, but at the same token though, if that would make the difference, you know, $1 per permit or something could probably go a long way or something like that.
It's a great point, David. We have an application fee in our ordinance that was developed to pay for our previous software. So we could potentially look at increasing that to make up the difference.
Chairman?
Well, in the interest of moving this forward, I'd go ahead and make a motion to move this forward to the county board for approval, directing staff to continue negotiations and contract language for approval at that time. Second.
Mr. Chairman, before we vote on that, this is Dave Wiltsey.
Go ahead, Dave.
I just noticed that the gentleman said he was meeting with Speedway on the 20th, and I believe he thought we were meeting on the 19th. I think if I'm reading the calendar right, we're on the 20th, aren't we? Or do I get that wrong?
Nope, you're right.
Okay, no problem. I will let Speedway know. No problem. Thank you though.
So we would bring that back, Mr. Chairman, on the 20th for our meeting?
Yes.
Yes, this would come back to the full county board for final approval, potential final approval on the 20th. And
that's good, because I noticed slide 25 says the pricing is only good till 31st of January.
Yeah, and so meaning, yes, the goal would be to get an agreement in place, but just a, hey, yes, Nate, we're moving forward with cloud permit. That would suffice. If we're in contract negotiation, not a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, at that meeting on the 20th, Mr. Wiltsey, staff will hopefully be able to give us some pretty good updates on any contract language or anything like that, and then board would issue final approval at that time if so desired.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, move forward, Phil. Okay. So roll call for moving this forward to the full board. Carl Johnson, yes. No, just to clarify also before I do that, motion was made by Johnson, seconded by Schabacher. Roll call, Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Giesky.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on. 9.4, proposal to change meeting day to meeting day for Committee of the Whole Administration and Legislative and Committee of the Whole Finance, Taxation, Salaries. Kevin.
I can take that, thank you. Tonight, I'd like to propose that we change our both Committee of the Wholes for Administration, Legislative, and Finance, Taxation, and Salaries to Tuesday, starting with the first meeting of Committee of the Whole Administrative, Legislative, beginning February 2nd. The reasoning for that, quite frankly, is a little, I guess I'd say, more of my fault. I'm a doctoral student, and my professors, my actual classes meet on Wednesday nights at this exact time, actually. And so I'm missing too many classes, and they're getting upset. They're getting upset. And so that's one of the reasons there. We would still keep county board meetings Wednesday evenings, so January 20th and beyond for the rest of this year, at least for 2021, would remain Wednesdays. Committee of the Whole will switch to Tuesday evenings beginning at 6. If everyone is so inclined, I believe that this should only have to occur for 2021. I go into my dissertation phase beginning 2022. So This should only have to really inconvenience the board for the rest of this year if you are so inclined to indulge my request. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I would encourage the board to go ahead and do this. When we went through the hiring process and we found this fantastic individual named Kevin to be our county administrator, one of the things I think that helped push this along and he helped him appeal to us is that we knew he had a desire for continuing education, and the more he continues down that path, the more he's going to help us as a community. So I really encourage the board to make this adjustment for him in his continued studies. So I would make that motion.
Mr. Carlisle?
Well, I'll second motion, but I'd like to give you something for discussion. The only obstacle you're going to have is CASA is on Tuesday.
What's that?
CASA is on Tuesday.
Any other discussion in the boardroom or on the phone?
Yeah, this is Dave Wiltsey, if I may.
Sure, Dave.
My problem with Tuesday for the the finance is that that would be the same day as the board meeting for Candlewick Lake. I can't pretend to drive the board's agenda based upon that just because of my problem, but it would be a conflict for me, and I'd have to, I don't know if there's any consideration to go to Thursday, or if I would just try to figure a way to attend part of the one meeting and do the other.
Go ahead, Chairman.
I just chatting with Mr. Catlin here a little bit. He's certainly agreed with it Thursday also, so I would be willing to amend my motion to Thursday.
I'll second that.
I mean, if it's okay with the other members,
I have a meeting on Tuesdays as well.
All right, so the motion has been made to move meetings to Thursdays and seconded by Bill Robertson.
And that's only for finance, right? We could still, you'd leave administrative Tuesday. It's okay with me.
No, I think we just do them both on Thursdays.
Now, I need.
Okay.
Yeah, we just do them both on Thursdays. So.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so ready to vote?
Ready to vote?
Okay. So first off, we have to vote for the amendments to the original motion, which is amending the original motion to Thursdays. So let's do a roll call vote on that. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Easky.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher. Yes. Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Ryder.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next would be to vote on the original motion, which is to move the meetings as amended, making it Thursdays.
Beginning in February.
Beginning February, yes. February 1st or whatever, it'd be 6 o'clock, yes.
Beginning in February, okay.
Yeah, beginning in February, correct. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Giesky.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Schabacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Ryder.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda, 9-6, proposal for 1212 Logan Avenue door access control system acquisition. Kevin.
All right. Talking a lot here. So tonight I wanted to go over a few things with regard to our building security here. We have recently upgraded as part of an initiative with the recent election. We had included a security upgrade for cameras, and a lot of that actually was funded through a grant obtained by our county clerk and recorder Julie Bliss. So we actually got that fully funded from that grant, and that bought, I believe we have 7 cameras. So they're pretty nice, motion detection, very high memory capacity, so it's very good. And that was actually installed by Audio Engineering. We also, through the county clerk and recorder's, I guess, process for securing or having a better polling place that's secured, they figured that we also needed to have door access controls installed as well. We used to have one for the building, only for the exterior doors, and that system became obsolete and stopped working. And it was a Schlage system installed in 2009 when the building was built, and it malfunctioned at one point where I believe the doors actually just remained open and we had to physically come and lock them. So, or actually, I think at one point we actually had to chain the doors closed. So, but anyway, that system has no longer been functioning. We've since created front door keys for employees to access those exterior doors. And as part of a way to make the building more secure, this door access control system would allow us to sort of revive the exterior door controls. We would actually bypass that and have a different system just because that Schlage system is no longer supported, but nonetheless, that would be in place. We'd have the exterior doors. This would also add capability and capacity for our interior suite doors, so the building department, administration, clerk and recorder, and then the treasurer's office. What this would do, say if there, you just never know, anything can happen. This would allow us to lock down the building. If anything happens, we could lock internal suite doors. This also gives us ability to know who's entering and going at any time because employees and others will have access cards for the building. The county clerk was able to secure some additional grant funding in the amount of $13,000 for this, and about $16,905 will come out of the general fund. It's going to be a little bit less than that because I found out we actually overpaid recently Audio Engineering about $1,200, I believe. So they have a credit on our account for that. But that's what this agenda item is for, is to sort of revive the exterior door access controls and then also add interior access controls, interior door access controls for this building.
Any questions for Kevin in the boardroom? Go ahead, Chairman.
Where's the additional funds that are needed aside from the grant coming from?
Yeah, so this would come out of contingency. The reasoning to move on this as quickly as we can is I guess the mere reason, or I guess for the reason that that grant is there. If we don't move on this, that grant funding could go away from the state because it's for the election purpose, and I think there's a timeline to actually utilize this grant. So this would come out of the general fund reserves.
I would move that we do move on it.
Any other discussion in the boardroom?
Second.
There's a motion.
I'll second the motion. Wiltsey seconds the motion.
Thank you.
Nope, we have to hear discussion normally
Now,
before.
So you would get your motion, then a second, then discussion.
Okay. Motion made by Bill Robertson, seconded by Dave Wiltsey. Any discussion? In the boardroom?
Yeah.
Online?
Ray Larson.
Go ahead, Ray.
This is
I think Mrs. Gieske's wants to make a comment or question here. You can go ahead.
Go ahead, Sherry.
just a comment. I applaud you, Ken, for doing this. It's long overdue. I remember the chain around the door because things didn't work. So I applaud you this, and I think the faster we move this forward, the better off it will be.
Thank you, Sherry. Ray?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how long before this new system is no longer supported and we have to acquire a whole new system again?
Yes, that's a very good question. So Audio Engineering ensured us that they would monitor our system and update it, frequently. So the issue with our former system is that it was installed, it was probably low bid when the building was built. No one monitored it, no one kept track of anything. So what we have with audio engineering is that we'll have a maintenance agreement in place, things like that, so that they're monitoring the system. If it does become obsolete, they'll install some sort of an update, or we will upgrade that system somehow at a cheaper cost than what it is costing now. They actually originally quoted us, I was able to talk them down a bit, they actually originally quoted us about $35,000 to put something like this in. So once we have this system installed, it'll be able to be updated, upgraded, and added to if need be. So we shouldn't run into this situation again.
Mr. Robertson?
I have some experience with this, and this is a very reputable company. And I believe, since they're somewhat local, that they should be able to monitor this. Schlaglock is a good company, but they're nationwide, and if they decide to do away with something, they do. And they did. So I think this would be a great program, and I think this would be a good company to do it.
Any other questions or comments on the phone or in the boardroom? Then I move to approve the proposal for 1212 Logan Avenue Access Door Control System acquisition. Can I get a motion?
Well, we already had a motion and a second motion from Robertson, seconded from Wiltsey.
Approve, we vote.
Call for the question.
Yep. So roll call vote, Carl Johnson, yes. Chair Geeske.
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar.
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Steve Shabak.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Curry.
Yes.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on, 9.8, impact fees. We have letters attached, and I believe we have some people that are joining us tonight that might add to that discussion if you'd like to. Chairman?
Seeing the letters that are attached, and it seems like there's a pretty strong consensus from all parties involved to go with a moratorium for basically a 2-year moratorium. I believe it was 2 years, wasn't it? Through 2022.
Right.
I would move that we go ahead and issue a moratorium and further study throughout that period of time before it's re-implemented.
Do we have any discussion on that?
We need a second first.
Second.
Motion made by Chairman Johnson, seconded by Bill Robertson. Any discussion, Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with suspending this moratorium, semantics by then. But I would like to have us do a study of some sort of, get an idea of what type of synopsis we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the formulas that are in there. We're going to talk about the changes in acreage costs. We just can't be blank about it. So I'd like to have something that we can talk about and continue the discussion. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
I think that's what the motion said, was that we would study it during that period and determine it before it was re-implemented.
I want to be specific.
Mr. Schumacher?
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, and maybe this has been answered, I didn't pick up on it, but are all the players and recipients of the impact fees been contacted? Like earlier, you heard me mention that. Does it affect the fire department? Does it affect the sheriff's department? I'd kind of like to know, and like the chair said, maybe we would find that out later, but that's just a question I have.
You'll have letters attached from each one of those entities, and as of right now, the impact fees involved, or our impact fees here, affect North Boone School District, Belvedere School District, the Belvedere Park District, and the Boone County Conservation District. All three have written letters stating that they would support the 2-year, along with the real estate. Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, just to specifically clarify for Mr. Schubacher, impact fees that are on homes in the county do not have any effect on the fire districts, on library districts, on police districts, anything like that. It's just these few entities, Park District, School District, Conservation District. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I believe now, if nobody has anything else, we move to vote.
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Ray Larson.
Hey, I just want to clarify. So the city of Belvedere also has impact fees. If a home is built in the city boundaries, do they charge the impact fee and Boone County does? Or is it only the city charges that?
Ray, once a city adopts or engulfs a section of land, all the rules and regulations are per the city and their ordinances. The county loses complete control over it. So if a home is built and it's in the city or in city incorporated areas, then it falls under whatever the city's rules and regulations are. If they have impact fees, then the city impact fees apply. If a home would be in the county, then it would strictly fall under county rules. So in this instance, if a home's built in the county, there would be no impact fees for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. And then so if I just did some rough math on our, since 2010 for the county, it would break down to like 6.666 homes per year. And it's like, I believe it was $4,500 approximately per home. I'm not sure if that really impacts preventing people from building houses in unincorporated Boone County. I'm not sure if I could see maybe if you really want having a moratorium on it, but it doesn't seem like we're really preventing that much housing from being built in rural Boone County.
Yeah, Ray, this putting a moratorium or a small hold on this is necessary so we can actually utilize some of these numbers. What you're looking for right now is some of the study that they're going to do in the future. So that's why we want you to participate in this. The vote tonight is just to agree to this moratorium or suspension at this time and move forward.
Mr. Chairman. Anything else online? Anything in the boardroom? If not,
Dave Lortzey, I have a question online.
go ahead, Dave.
The point 4, the collection of the fees will resume at the end of the 2-year abeyance period. Is that 2 years from now? 2 years from February 1st? What are we talking about? And why? What was the? And I'm not opposed to this. And I don't want to prolong it, but what was the idea for 2 years instead of 1?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Mr. Wilties, were you the one that asked that question?
Yes, Dave Wiltie, yes.
Okay. So my name is Neely Erickson. I'm the Government Affairs Director with the Illinois Realtors. So the reason why the working group went with 2 years is because 1 year is not enough time to notify the home builders and get the information out there. And also through my history, 1 year is too short of a period. So McHenry County did a 2-year period and they saw success. Genoa did a 1 year. They saw an increase of 6 permits. They have reissued a 1-year moratorium. They've seen an increase in 10 permits. So they are doing it year by year. However, they are in advance. So the working group had thought, because this committee is kind of making this decision not quite in advance of the spring construction season. It's going to take some time for those builders to get things together. So that's why we're going with the 2-year. And the working group does believe that any impact is that would happen, it would go with the growth that we currently have right now. So there wouldn't be a lot of any weight on the current infrastructure. And also it would give all local governments the sufficient time to be able to study their impact fees and do a thorough review like Mr. Carlisle is looking to do. But as we can see, the impact fee is arbitrary because there is no impact right now. And the true existence of an impact fee is to build new infrastructure that is uniquely and attributable to the development that is occurring on. So for example, these impact fees for the school district can't be used for teacher salaries. They can't be used to buy desks. They can't be used to buy books. There are specific reasons for these impact fees, and we do not see the need for that currently right now in this community. And we believe that by giving the time and the due diligence for this board to be able to do that work, you will be able to create an impact fee ordinance that is more in line with what we are currently seeing with building today. And Mr. Schabacher, in your comments for your building department, I think it's important to absolutely see that breakdown. I don't believe that there were many building permits of that 817 that was actually due to new construction. So it's important to see where the weight is on your building department going forward on that end. And an online process will definitely stream things for home builders if they can upload those permit applications online and pay fees.
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. That was very well said. Thank you. I'm sorry for my ignorance, but what's our fiscal year? Is it April or is it calendar?
County fiscal year goes from December through January, right? Or November. Duh. We do 13 months every year.
Okay. That was well said, Mrs. Erickson. Thank you.
I guess I would anticipate that this would take effect immediately once approved at the full county board.
Yes.
I just have one comment. I've been trying to study this thing and watching what's going on in some other communities and right here in Belvedere. If there's such a demand for the homes and the market is, you're saying there's no volume of homes to be purchased. So I'm probably going to be the dissension in this. I get where you're coming from. I understand that, but I'm just not comfortable taking these fees away at this point for these builders. If they've got the money to build these places and they've got an inventory that they're trying to build so that people can buy, if there's that many people waiting to buy them, I'm just not 100% convinced on doing away with it, but I'm probably in the minority here, so.
No, I understand the concern. That's a concern that's raised by many board members that I have spoken to regarding the impact fees. I just think that it's important that it's not the builder that pays the impact fee, it's the homeowner that pays the impact fee. And every dollar that homeowner has to come up with is another dollar they have to find in their mortgage payment. So when you're talking about affordable housing and your comprehensive plan coming up, I've been very much in touch with Izzy about that comprehensive plan about a year ago regarding the affordable housing section. That's going to be a major issue you guys are going to have to take a look at, considering that the median income, the median home right now is around $150,000, and that's just for that 33 homes that are under that $250,000 cost. So it's very important to look at that, and when you're talking about affordable housing on that end. And then the only other thing that I wanted to add is when it's important to note that 1 through 9 were very important issues that we wanted to be able to bring to the board. So it's not just that we're looking for a 2-year moratorium. It's one of the things is I just want to make sure that Dan Kane's concerns from the Conservation District are forefront in your mind, is that there are some home builders that have already entered into contracts with the Conservation District in lieu of paying impact fees for those subdivisions. They are offering land for the Conservation Department, and we do believe that those contracts should be honored for Mr. Kane. So I would definitely, as you guys are deciding your 2-year moratorium, everything else is pretty much in line. Just to keep that factor in mind, that we would like to definitely see that because those contracts should be honored.
Thank you. I believe we can move forward and move to approve the impact fee.
Okay.
Moratorium. for 2 years.
All right, so this is a vote for the 2-year moratorium and send it to the full board. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Teske,
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Aye.
Ray Larson,
No.
Steve Schubacher.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle,
Yes.
Ryan Curry,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Sherry Bartella,
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
No.
That motion carries.
9.9, Families First Coronavirus Response Act Paid Leave Extension. Dan?
So, County Board, bringing to you tonight, we haven't spoken about this in quite a while, but we're bringing tonight a proposed extension of the leave provisions that came along with the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So just a little bit of the background that I'll walk through. If you remember, back in April of 2020, the FFCRA passed. What that law did was it required employers to offer 2 types of paid leave. One of them we call EPSL. What that did was it gave all employees 2 weeks of emergency paid sick leave that they could only utilize in specific instances related to COVID-19. The second type of leave that the FFCRA mandated was something we call EFMLA. What that did was it essentially expanded the Family Medical Leave Act to allow for FMLA to be used when school or daycare was closed. And so, again, those 2 things in April, they were mandatory. The county board adopted a policy on April 15th that essentially codified in our personnel policy handbook that and mirrored that language of the FFCRA. So you fast forward now to December 27th, the new stimulus bill, which is just what I've been calling it, went into law on 12/27. And what that did was it extended the tax credits associated with that mandatory leave. What it didn't do was continue to mandate the leave. So now employers have a choice of whether or not they want to continue to offer that leave. For local governments, including the county, we were never eligible for the tax credit. It was something that we had hoped would get fixed throughout the year in 2020. It was never fixed in the legislation. And so really at this point, what we're recommending as staff would be to voluntarily extend those leave provisions through March 31st, which is what is allowed by the new stimulus. We don't benefit from the tax credits, but at this point, COVID-19 is still happening in the community. It's an important tool that we can use as the employer to encourage our employees to stay home when they're sick. I looked at the data so this is from essentially April 1st through 12/31. We have 265 employees. During that time period, they worked roughly or logged approximately 300,000 hours. Of those 300,000 hours, there were 3,400 hours used either EPSL or the EFMLA. So it amounts to about, on average, about 2 people a week over those 39 weeks utilizing that time. It's important to note that the extension doesn't grant anyone any new hours. So if you used your 2 weeks, you won't get another 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks are gone. What it does is it essentially, any unused time that's already there as of 12/31, it just rolls it to March 31st of this year. And at that point, I would imagine that it would probably expire, given the vaccine rollout. So essentially, again, there's no new hours being doled out, no renewal of any time. It's just any unused remaining hours that are there for people, they would still be able to utilize those.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan in the boardroom? Any questions for Dan on the phone? Then I would move to recommend an extension of the FFCRA's leave provisions through March 31st, 2021, as provided by the new stimulus. Motion Motion made by Bill Robertson, second by Rod Riley. Vote.
Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske,
Yes.
Jonathan Van Laar,
Yes.
Dave Wiltsey,
Yes.
Ray Larson,
Aye.
Steve Shabbat.
Yes.
Jeff Carlisle.
Yes.
Ryan Kirby,
Yes.
Bill Robertson,
Yes.
Sherry Martell,
Yes.
Rodney Ryder.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next, 9:10, we have raffles. We have two raffles here, one for Main Street Players and the other for the American Legion Boone Post 77. Are there anybody here representing those two raffles? If not, I'd like to, if I could have a couple members after the meeting come sign this and Intergovernmental reports and updates, 911 report, Public Safety Board. Sheriff has nothing?
That's going to be somebody from the board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That should just be on the, that should actually be just for the board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Information items and other business. Anybody have anything to add, Matt? No? I see no reason to go to executive session. You, Chairman?
Really quick, I'm so sorry. Yep, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so on landfill, sorry about that. The reason why we struck the landfill agreement is because speaking with our community partners, City of Belvedere, and just kind of getting up to speed on the landfill, we're looking at trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel on the landfill. And it just seems like we just keep paying for reports and reports after report and nothing's happening. And so we really would like to get to a point where that is not a requirement as far as what we're doing now. And so what we'd like to do is go out for an RFQ, a request for qualifications from a new firm or current firm to try to get us a report and some sort of a study to allow us to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think we've been doing this for almost 20 years plus. And so that's why I asked to remove that agenda item so that we can come back with something else that would be better, I guess a better benefit for us. So anyway, I want to explain that, so we'll see something in the future on that.
God bless you. Find a way to shut down and get it done with.
You know, that's been going on a long time. I started in 85 here, and I remember years going by that was always an issue, trying to get closure on those landfills, and just, it was a real obstacle.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. As I said, no reason to go into executive session, so I need, I'd make a movement to adjourn the movie. Can I get a motion?
I have something to say.
Go ahead, Sherry.
I'm looking over all the people here that you gave assignments to or whatever. And after 2 years, Mr. Johnson spelled my name wrong. Which when I first looked at it, I didn't know if it was Sherry Geske or me, and I saw the last name, so I guess it's me. I've never heard of this executive education or board. And, you know, I realized that why this happened and why I have this is because I was asked by Mr. Johnson if I wanted to vote for him for county board. And I said yes. And then I started looking over some stuff and I didn't vote for him. So I had something else come up and I called the man. And he said to me, Carl said to me, why didn't you vote for me when you said you're going to say yes? I said, because you don't wear a mask and a lot of the people on the board do not wear a mask and we are not social distance. I realize other things that have been going on. And I realize also that people pay a price when they say things about somebody on the board that they don't like. So I guess this is the price I paid. So with that, fine. I accept it, but after 2 years, and you can't spell my name right, I think somebody has a problem. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Sherry. Making movement, or a motion has been made by Jeff Carlisle, seconded by Steve Schwager to adjourn the meeting.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.